All right, we'll be getting started in just about one moment, everyone. All right, good afternoon. We're at the top of the hour and our time for lightning talks is limited, so we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Erin Owens. I'll be the moderator for this session. Please do remember our conference code of conduct, which I'm pasting a link to in the chat. You can reach out to us if you have any problems. We will take Q&A at the end of each individual talk during the lightning session, so we may only have a few minutes for Q&A, but we will try to take your questions if we can. Our first presenters are Lily Dubach and Rachel Vacek. Lily is the textbook affordability librarian, and Rachel is the Associate Dean for Technology and Digital Strategies, both at the University of Central Florida. Please join me in welcoming Lily and Rachel.
Thank you, Erin. Hello, I am Lily Dubach, joined here by Rachel Vacek, Associate Dean at our libraries.
Hello.
A quick little background about where we work. We work at the University of Central Florida, which is in Orlando. We have about 110 employees. This does not count student assistants across 10 different branches or other locations. We are pretty big. So currently, UCF is considered the second largest university in the nation because we have about 70,000 students. Why did we create a artificial intelligence interest group? Well, an interest group, for those of you who don't know or unfamiliar with this term, it is a group of persons having a common identifying interest that often provides a basis for action. So we launched this back in October to be a one-year pilot, and Rachel and I, the presenters, we're both co-chairs. What it looks like is a monthly meeting that's online. And we came up with this idea because of other conversations around our institution. So we were attending an interest group with another department in the university. That seemed really great. And we recognized the importance of keeping our library up to date. And here is our purpose statement. So the interest group hopes to educate, inform, and engage our library employees according to the trends, tools, and topics related to AI. And we do hope this encourages us to remain informed and effective in research, teaching, learning, and other areas related to librarianship and AI. We did establish group norms, which is really important, especially if you're going to do your own interest group or something like this. Our group norms include values. They include other expectations, such as when are we meeting, how are we meeting, where are we keeping our minutes, things like that. And then what's also really important is that we emphasize safe space guiding principles. You can see those here, such as respecting privacy, respecting opinions and ideas, things like that. Now, the sessions, what do they actually look like? We typically have about 35 people attend each month. And so again, that's about 32% of our employees in the library. And practically every department is represented. And what's nice is that the sessions are held virtually in Microsoft Teams, and this allows for those departments and those individuals who may not be at the main campus. They may be in a different campus about an hour or so away. And what do? We have announcements, we share information, we have that lets people know about workshops or conferences coming up that they may want to speak at, such as this one. And then we move into our larger portion of our agenda. The way we determined what would actually be included in our interest group was by gathering expectations of what our attendees wanted to see. I used Mentimeter to do this, and the most popular answers were they wanted to watch short videos together, they wanted to see live demos of AI tools, they wanted to hear from guest speakers, they wanted to discuss articles about AI, and then they also wanted to have sessions that give them an opportunity to practice, as well as a few other random ideas. Here's what we've done so far in the interest group. We have time where participants can share their experiences of attending conferences or workshops or things like that. We also put together a panel of library employees to talk about how they're using AI tools in their work. And then we also held an in-person webinar watch party that we did gather either face-to-face or people watched from their own campus virtually to watch something pertinent together. And then also what's really popular is that we organize AI tool show and tell sessions where a individual is given an AI tool and then they present, okay, here are some things to know about it. Here's how you can use it. And then we did more things. We discussed an article, guided discussion around that. We conducted a couple sandbox sessions, which included practicing with AI tools we've used before, and then coming up with ideas such as, hey, we've never used Otter AI to take session notes. Let's try that today. And then a lot of these ideas culminated into us creating a research guide related to AI that you can view as well. A little bit later, Rachel's going to talk about the assessment we've done about our interest group, but I'll also talk about our guest speakers now. So we've had 2 guest speakers so far. We've had Dr. Rohan Jawala. He's an instructional designer, and he presented a very engaging AI-driven content generation, navigating the future. That was a very popular session. And then after that, Dr. Laura Utic, instructional specialist for the Faculty Center for Teaching and Learning, presented faculty perspectives of the use of AI in research. And then coming soon, Dr. Lori Pinkert will be presenting for our interest group as well. Now, we do recognize that all of these came from our specific institution. So you may think about your institution having people who may speak to this, but if you're not in an academic library, maybe you're in a public library or a special library or school library, you might want to think about your wider community. Or if you are going to do an interest group that is online, you're not limited to your location. I will now turn it over to Rachel.
Hi, everybody. So halfway through, as Lily said, we set this up in October as a year pilot, and recently we were about halfway through and we thought, maybe we should do some assessment to make sure that we are meeting the expectations of all the people that are coming. I mean, it's a good sign that they keep coming back and that we, month after month, we still get between 30 and 35 people. It's not always the same people. So we thought we should do some assessments. So we built a Qualtrics survey. It was open for about 2 weeks, and we got about a 19% response rate. Of course, some responses are incomplete. People just want to open up a survey and check it out, and they don't respond to anything. But one of the questions that we asked was about whether or not they were able to attend. So we didn't just limit our survey to the 35 people that come. We sent it to the whole library. And so some people said, the timing of sessions is inconvenient, or they don't feel that they have the technical background. They're concerned about the potential misuse of AI, or they just have too much on their plate. We all have a lot on our plate. So instead of spending time going into the questions, we have a link here, which I put into the chat, if you want to check out the questions that we have, that we asked as part of our assessment. So one of the questions was about what have our participants found to be the most valuable? We did ask them originally, as Lily showed, that we had asked about what they were most interested in, but what they found valuable was a little bit different. The show and tell and live demos seem to be very, very popular, along with, again, Dr. Rohan speaking about understanding where we're going with AI in the future. The sandbox sessions have been really fun. We held several of those, and we looked at different tools at each one. It was a lot of fun. Even the discussion about AI-related articles, we recommended some articles people read in advance. Half the people actually read it, but the discussions that came about were really kind of engaging and thought-provoking, and really helpful, I think, for both staff and librarians to kind of discuss together. And of course, the information sharing. I was sort of surprised at how excited people were or found valuable, just like, oh, there's a AI petting zoo on campus next week, or there's this conference that's free to attend. You know, people wouldn't have found out about these things, and they've been really kind of grateful about us sharing information. Of course, other guest speakers, the panel presentation and sharing info from colleagues, and then the webinar watch party. So thought it would be good to kind of get some of the qualitative feedback that we gathered to share with you. So somebody said, my skills at prompt writing or prompt engineering, for example, for AI have improved thanks to seeing others write prompts while demonstrating AI products. Or I appreciate that this group exists and encourages me to explore new tools. I've gained not only new skills, but also confidence. I've really enjoyed the sessions that I attended, and I learned new AI tools that I could use immediately in my work. So I think, you know, the feedback we've gotten has been really positive. Not all the feedback was positive. Some people were a little frustrated with the level of technology, but we've tried to make our sessions very accessible to everyone. So what's next? So we're going to be incorporating the feedback that we got from the assessment into our plans for the remaining 6 months or so that I guess it's less than 6 months, that we have in our pilot of the interest group. And then probably do some more assessment at the end to kind of see, like, should we continue this group or should we end it? Should it turn into something else? I'm an associate dean, so my time is very limited. Not that Lily's not busy, she's also exceptionally busy, but I let her know up front last year that I would only do this for a year, that, you know, I want to help get it started and help set it up for success. So we're going to be recruiting someone else to co-lead the group. We really like the co-leadership model in the library. And then another thing that we're also thinking about doing, and something I might be leading, is launching some sort of a AI more in-depth exploratory program that's maybe loosely based on University of New Mexico. Dean Leo Lowe there has presented a lot about his program and how it's really engaged with staff. And so I'm curious to try to do something like that here at UCF. So takeaways for everybody. If you're thinking about doing something like this in your library, think about the goals and the purpose and the scope. Having group norms can really help set expectations of how to interact with one another and what people's roles are. You know, this is not a committee, this is an interest group. So there's not supposed to be like homework. It's people are coming
2 minutes.
Thank you, coming on a voluntary basis because they're interested in it. So be sure to kind of set up your expectations for your group. Another piece of advice is to really consider the diversity of your audience and the levels of experience, whether that's experience or familiarity with AI generally, whether you have you know, younger people, older people, librarians, staff, a wide variety of different maybe types of people in your audience, in your library. So just consider that as you're planning events. Create communication and assessment plans. That's always important for any sort of group. Stay on top of AI advancements as much as you can, whether it's locally on your campus or in your community, as well as nationally. Like the other day, Apple just announced, oh gosh, Lily,
Apple
help me out.
Intelligence.
Thank you, Apple Intelligence. So I think at our next group, we're gonna maybe play with that. And I guess our biggest takeaway is you don't have to be an expert to do this. Lily and I are not experts at AI at all, but we are very curious and encourage play and experimentation, and we encourage you to do that as well in your libraries. So thank you so much. The link to the slides is there. It's also in the chat. We would love to answer some questions in probably the minute we have left.
Yeah, we may have time for one question. You can raise your hand if you'd like me to unmute you, or you can type your question into the Q&A tool. All right, well, we will go ahead and move on to our next presenter for now. And if we have any extra time at the end, we can circle back around if there are questions.
Thank you, everyone.
Our next presenter is Hannah Mutran, the Graduate Research Assistant for Implementations of AI at the University of Texas at Austin Libraries. Please join me in welcoming Hannah.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. I'm not actually a GRA anymore, I graduated, but I am still working at UT Libraries.
Sorry. Congratulations.
And thank you. And so this is a project that I did last semester, so in the spring semester, and it's kind of ongoing. And the idea, and I was working with my supervisor, Aaron Choate, the director of research and strategy at UT Libraries in Austin. The idea was to research and develop a prototype for an extension to our Ask a Librarian service. So our Ask a Librarian service has been around for 10 years, and it's staffed by librarians and GRAs during operating hours. So there are times when there's just no one there to operate it. And so we started by doing kind of the research portion, and the first thing was to analyze the historical chat logs, and there were a lot because 10 years of service. So we did 4 weeks from the fall 2022 semester, and we did the first 2 and the last 2 to kind of get a better range. And what we were looking for is kind of like norms of interaction, and a big one that stood out and that we've built into the design was that there were a lot of referrals to librarians on campus or to websites or to library departments via the chat. And another big thing was that on the user end, most of the questions fit into just a few kind of broad categories. There was a lot of diversity in the actual questions that were asked, but 50%, was research assistance. And then another 35% about was general library questions. So like, how much does printing cost? Is this library, open today? Do you have this equipment, et cetera? Oh. Okay. So then I moved on to interviews with the librarians who work for the service, and I did 5 interviews with librarians, and I was really looking to see like what are the values of the service, and again, like establish like more concrete interaction norms, and so through these hour-long sessions that I held on Zoom, some big themes came out, and a couple of them were really maybe like obvious, which is transparency and accuracy, of course, but also, scoping to the library's purpose, not being able to do anything. So not being an all-purpose chatbot, and then also maintaining the importance of human connection. And that was a real concern. So even when you put on a computer program, which is, what AI is, we still wanted to really make sure that we were still getting people in to talk to librarians. So this was another thing, and this, I did it at a certain point in the project and then kept going back to it. And I think that if they move forward with doing another, like a user study or something, they would keep going with this. And that's, using rubrics to help guide the design work. So for this project, I chose the ALA Code of Ethics, of course, makes sense. And the Microsoft Human AI Interaction Guidelines. So which are more focused on design. So we have kind of like design and then ethics. And I went through just each point, each ethical guideline, and just wrote out in my own words what it meant to me that I had to do in this project. And then went back to it and changed it as like I changed things in the project. So I want to show you the demo because this is much cooler than just talking about it. So this is VoiceFlow. I chose this platform because I knew that we wanted really to scope to purpose and we didn't want to have, a GPT or like a ChatGPT like experience where it's just like user large language model. I knew that we wanted to do something that was more traditional conversation design. So this is what, the conversation flow looks like. I have like a few different flows here. This is the research assistance. And so when the user gets to research, they basically start here and it prints out this step. So this is not an AI step. And as you can see, there are a lot of steps here. The gray are not AI and the green are AI. So I wanted to just show how it looks. This is an AI step. So when the user gets here, the VoiceFlow platform basically sends a message to, in this case, Claude. And it includes the prompt that I've written here. It includes the memory of the conversation. So the last 10 things that were written in the chat. It includes some settings that I have about how I want it to behave. And then it includes a system message. And in the system message, I have kind of the persona that I'm creating and the tasks that I'm giving it and some rules about that and some tools for it to use. And in this case, when I say tools, I'm meaning like building links for the user to be able to give them resources. And then I have an example. So the program sends all of that to Claude, which is a large language model. And then Claude sends back, or Anthropic sends back the response, and then we can use it in our program. So I want to show you what it looks like. Oh, I have to get this I have to move this out of the way, excuse me. So the first thing is that you have to agree that you're comfortable with this, with how the data is being used. So this would be different if it were on the UT website and they were doing it, because every situation is going to be, particular. And so for now, this is the demo intro. So now we have buttons and we can go to various places in the chatbot's design, but I'm just going to ask a question. So is the Fine Arts Library open today? Okay, so the way that I've designed this, again, because accuracy is really important, is actually to not answer questions. It gives links where users can find the answers to their questions. So here, it has given, it's given a link to our hours page on our website. So it's almost like a conversational interface a little bit here. And it does a search, like a Google search of our website, to find relevant results. And, it's good because there's so many different questions that people can ask that it's hard to predict and be really accurate when you're actually, live. So now I want to show you the research flow. So I'm researching the spending habits of families now versus the 1950s. So again, this is sending the message. Oh, actually, it's not yet. Because this takes me to a flow, and then I want to see like if they want to say that it's for a particular class or add any other kind of context. So now we could go straight to resource recommendations, but we're going to brainstorm topic ideas because I just want to show you how it works. And it's something I think that large language models are really good at. So that's another thing, is kind of figuring out like where can they be really useful. And so it's given me these research paths. I have options here. I could say that, you know, it misunderstood the topic. If I was like, oh, I meant to type 1960s, I could research a different topic. I can contact a librarian right away, like, you know, an out for the user if they don't like this. I can get new ideas for the same topic. But I'm going to go with comparison of household budgets and spending patterns between 1950s and modern families. So now that was an AI step, creating the brainstorming, and now this is an AI step as well. So it's sending a message over to Claude. Claude is going to respond back with, you know, what I've asked it to do, which is create this kind of starter guide to research. So this is a search of our catalog that it created from that, and it's searched for household budgets, spending patterns. And then we have searches of our databases for like more broad topics. And then our LibGuides, so consumer spending. So it's created this on its own, you know, with the template that I've given it, the instructions I've given it. So it's not, you know, everything, but it's a good start, I think, for users to build off of. So that was a Google Scholar search, and then I have a semantic Scholar search in here. And then, and this is another thing I think it's really good at, is doing site searches, because it has instructions to create site searches for websites that would be authoritative in, you know, the research that the user is doing. So, you know, it sometimes comes up with like ideas that I wouldn't have, you know, and let's see. So that can be really useful. Those actually, I don't know if those were good or not, but like Brookings, that's a fun one. So down here, it gives some writing and citation help. You know, again, kind of like the purpose of libraries, what are we doing?
2 minutes.
And this is, thank you. And this is an email, a link to an email form that users can fill out if they want more assistance, but also they can contact a librarian. And, you know, I have information about our librarians and what specialties they have. And so it should come up with librarians and their contact information, and also an explanation of why they might be a good choice for additional assistance. So this is Bill Coupland. So this is his webpage on our website. So let me see. So I think that's it. So does anyone have any questions?
So we have one question in the Q&A tool. They said, the chat you have demonstrated, is it something built just using the LibChat chatbot, or are you using a third-party software?
I'm using VoiceFlow. So VoiceFlow is a third-party software, and it's for creating chatbots like this. And then now it has built in these kind of large language model steps where you can call an LLM.
Very interesting. We've got just a little bit more time. If we've got one more question, you can type in the Q&A or you can raise your hand and I can unmute you. Oh, here. Okay, so they ask, so are you programming VoiceFlow or Claude? I think you're working in VoiceFlow, right? And then it sends the request out to Claude.
Yeah, so I'm working in VoiceFlow. For Claude, I mean, it's more like prompt engineering, and then also you can decide on the temperature that you want and the number of tokens that you want. So kind of the variability and how long you want the responses to be.
All right, great, thank you. Okay, it is 2:30, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce our last presenter. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you.
All right, for our last lightning talk here, please welcome Kristen Moore, Associate Director, and Angelina Vigliotti, Student Services and Reference Librarian, both at Stetson University College of Law in Gulfport, Florida.
Hello, everybody. So today we're going to be chatting with you all a bit about utilizing AI for legal research. In our library setting, which is an academic law library, we primarily work with students and faculty and occasionally attorneys who are conducting legal research. But we pretty much know that any reference desk may get a legal research question at some point. After all, libraries are welcoming, accessible spaces for those seeking information, especially when it's a new or complex topic like law. So whether someone wants to learn about a recent legal development they saw on the news, or maybe a student wants to introduce a legal perspective in a research paper, or even if someone is actually dealing with a legal problem of their own, it's really best for librarians to be prepared for these sorts of questions and to make that may make an appearance in their reference setting. Due to this reality of legal questions being presented in libraries, and not just law libraries, which some of you may already be aware of, it's important to be sure that we're using the research tools at our disposal accurately and ethically. And this is increasingly including artificial intelligence in legal research tools. Now, just to clarify, by ethics in legal research, I mean that whenever answering legal questions, if you're not a licensed attorney, you cannot give legal advice under any circumstances. This means librarians couldn't comment or advise a patron on how the law might be applied to their specific facts or circumstances. But what we can do is provide resources that make the law more accessible. We can help these patrons locate the law itself, or maybe sources that explain the law, or even help them find legal aid services available to them. But there is a line that we all cannot cross with providing actual individualized legal advice. So this brings us to AI specifically. As AI is introduced into both library spaces and legal spaces simultaneously, it's important to note that this tool is only going to become more available for use when conducting legal research. This is already a type of research that really requires a great deal of precision and accuracy. After all, laws do develop and change, jurisdictional differences can affect answers, and in general, legal research includes some rather complex and confusing topics that even courts and legal professionals are actively grappling with. In order to ensure that we're helping our patrons find the information they need, and that that information is both accurate and relevant to their questions without overstepping into legal advice, we have to acknowledge what exactly AI can do for us in legal research, as well as where exactly its limitations are. AI can be an incredibly valuable resource for locating resources quickly or otherwise making a really complex topic a little more manageable, but we still want to be especially careful, especially regarding the information that AI gives us and whether it's actually useful to the question the patron asked us. AI is, after all, a tool, first and foremost. It's not an authority on law. So speaking of tools, I'm going to hand this over to my co-presenter, Kristen, to explain some of the AI tools that are available to librarians who are conducting legal research.
Absolutely. So there are several AI tools available specifically for legal research. Lexis Plus AI from LexisNexis, a co-counsel from Casetext, which was bought by Thomson Reuters or Westlaw, and vLexis Vincent AI are three of the really big AI tools from leading research, legal research companies. However, they are really pricey because they are from the big legal database companies. So if you aren't in a law library or a law firm, you probably want to look at some other AI tools like Harvey, Claude, Spellbook, or My Pocket Lawyer. There are a lot of options out there, and more are being created like almost daily. So there's no way that we can go over all of these in any kind of depth in 15 minutes. The best way to learn about what works best is to read about them and experiment with them. And if you can afford to use a legal specific AI tool, that is going to be your best bet for legal research, because it will limit, though not completely eliminate, hallucinations. But if it is an AI legal research tool, it's been trained on legal resources. So that's what it's pulling from rather than the entire internet. So you're going to get less incorrect information. I mean, it can still be incorrect, but it's going to at least probably be a real case or a real statute or something like that. Some things to consider when you're using legal AI is the scope of what it was trained on. Was it trained just on primary sources like statutes, cases, regulations, or did it include secondary sources as well, like legal encyclopedias, legal dictionaries, law review articles, etc. You also want to know the time frame of that material that was trained on. Some of these tools only look at back to like 2023. So it's only looking at the most recent law. So if you're doing any kind of historical legal research, those tools aren't going to help you. So you're definitely going to know what the time period is on the materials that it's trained on. And then there's also privacy concerns. Is it learning from your prompts? Is it storing any information? Legal matters carry a high degree of expected confidentiality. So it is important to know what is being shared. And if you want to explore the many legal AI tools available, visit there'sAnAI4that.com and just search for law or legal research, and you will get a plethora of tools to choose from and learn about. Next, I do want to talk a little bit about prompt engineering for legal questions. So we know the 5 Ps. Proper planning prevents poor performance. And I kind of like to think of prompting like that. So with some proper planning, you will get better performance out of your AI. So the first P, persona. You want to give your AI a character to play. So are they an attorney? Are they a self-represented litigant? Are they a paralegal? Are they a law student? This is going to influence the information the AI returns and the language used, because it will be providing an answer from a very specific perspective. Next, you want to make sure you're using precise language. Precision and accuracy are critical when it comes to law. A slight change in language can provide a totally different outcome. So be precise, be concise, and be clear. I've heard AI forgets what's in the middle of your prompt. So you're going to want to use short sentences. Also spell out any acronyms or abbreviations. Don't use jargon or colloquialisms. You want to make sure that you don't leave any room for ambiguity. Tell it exactly what you're looking for. You also want to provide context. Set the scene. So you've given the AI a character to play. Now tell them the scene. They can't reason like a human, and they struggle with accurate assumptions. They're doing everything off of patterns. So by filling in gaps, you can get a better answer. So first, tell it what area of law that you're wanting it to research or look at. Are you doing personal injury? Are you looking at employment law? Is this a criminal matter? That way it's at least pulling from the right bucket of law. Give it some basic facts about the case or the issue. Make sure you tell it what jurisdiction, so that if you're looking at a Florida legal matter or Georgia or California, that you're telling it that. So again, that it's pulling the law from an appropriate jurisdiction, or at least close. Next, the particulars. We've talked about precise language and context, but there's some additional particulars you want to include. For example, tell the AI the kind of response that you want. Do you want a brief summary, an overview, a detailed analysis, a table of laws, a bullet point list? Tell it what kind of response you want. Also tell the AI the tone or the style that you want the response in. For example, if you are drafting a letter, Do you want it formal or casual? Do you want the tone firm or soft? This is law. Are you trying to be adversarial, or are you trying to reach a compromise? But be particular. Don't give it too much information, or information that is irrelevant to your request. That's going to confuse the AI. So it's kind of finding that balance of just enough information so that it's precise and it's got context, but not so much information that it's completely overwhelmed and it's not giving you what you want. And then finally, partition. Keep your topics separate. Legal questions can involve a lot of different topics and issues, but do not ask AI about two things at once. You want to make sure you're dividing your topics and prompting the AI separately for those questions. There are a lot of articles that provide guidance on prompting AI. A popular one is Dave Burse's Create method, but there are also articles from law firms and legal tech companies that are providing information about specifically prompting for law. So the best thing you can do is just read and practice, practice, practice.
Okay, now that we've talked about the tools, I kind of want to go over how we evaluate the results. This evaluation process kind of happens when you're choosing which AI tool you want to use, when you're thinking about what kind of answer you're expecting to get, as well as then finally actually responding to the result you got, and thinking about how AI responded to you. So using these different evaluation methods are really quite helpful to ensure we're actually using AI correctly to get the most accurate information. And the most useful tool I've found thus far is the Information Literacy Framework for Higher Education, created by the Association of College Research Libraries. It's been included in the ALA Information Literacy Clearinghouse. So while it was very much created with the academic setting in mind, it's actually proven really generally applicable. And I think it's particularly helpful when we're evaluating AI results, especially when we're talking about law and legal questions. So there's 6 key points to this framework, and I'd like to go through them really quickly and just discuss how this would apply to evaluating an AI result when you've asked it a legal question, and also thinking about the questions you can ask yourself when you're engaging with AI to make sure that you're really using the tool that's the best for the situation and thinking about what kind of response you're going to get. So the first is authority. Authority in legal research really means, have you considered if the sources being provided to you by AI actually have legal authority in regard to your specific question? Are they even real cases? Are the statutes still good law? Have they been overruled at any point? Is it from the proper jurisdiction, or is there precedential value? You really need to think about what is the authority that's been provided to you, and is it relevant to your question, not just generally. The second is information creation as a process. Is the AI you're working with a language model that would recognize legal terms of art and their very specific definitions? Does it have access to specific sources, or is it pulling from the entire internet? Simply put, how is the AI you're using creating its results? And does that affect in any way whether or not you want to use those results, or what kind of result you're anticipating? Information has value, so consider the publishing practices of the vendor or the host who provides the AI tool that you're using. Does it give credit to the creators of the information? And therefore, can you follow this trail kind of back to the original sources to confirm the source? Does the AI comply with the law itself, specifically copyright law and fair use? And will this affect at all which publications or which sources it's going to pull its information from? Research as inquiry is particularly relevant since the law is complex, and sometimes a series of questions are needed to fully understand an issue. So does the AI tool that you're using allow for these types of conversations? Can it follow the thread of a legal question all the way down to a specific answer to a rather specific question?
2 minutes.
Sure, thank you. Scholarship as conversation may sound totally academic, but it's actually quite relevant to legal research. The law develops and it changes, and your research may lead you to a legal topic that is actively in flux. Different judges, attorneys, academics may be actively exploring it, expecting change or commenting on it. You need to consider when you're using AI if the tool you've chosen can accurately reflect these kinds of uncertainties in law, and if it can provide differing perspectives on something that may be really actively changing. Searching as strategic exploration is really important in legal research, since you'll find yourself seeking out different sources, sometimes alternative resources, in order to fully grasp a complex legal topic. How extensive are the sources that your AI tool is searching? And can that tool handle the fact that the scope of your question and your prompt may actually change as you discover more information? Finally, basically, as you continue to ask yourself these questions and apply this framework to your AI, research, you'll find that you're able to kind of find that balance between overdependence on AI, while at the same time recognizing it's a really quite helpful tool for research rather than an authority. So in conclusion, at this point, we've included on the last slide our emails in case you'd like to keep the conversation going, because I know we've found that as we work with AI, as we introduce it to our classes and our students, it really is a rapidly developing topic, and legal research is already a kind of interesting, complex thing of its own. So please feel free to reach out if we don't have time for too many questions. We've also provided links to both the ACRL framework and the ALA Information Literacy Clearinghouse in case you want to explore that a little further or just start thinking about how it applies in your setting in particular. So thank you so much.
Thank you. We've got one question here. How do these legal research AIs perform in generating a legislative history? What a productivity gain that would be.
Definitely be quite a productivity gain. That really comes down to the source itself. While some of them do have more extensive legislative histories available to them, they understand how to scour government sites and the like, where some of these legislative histories may be saved, as well as archival things. Others may not have the same access. So not to be a lawyer about it and say it depends, but it depends on your specific tool.
Exactly. Like if we're looking at federal, it might do pretty good because Congress.gov has put a lot of this online. So it has a nice database to like scour from. But some state, if you're looking at a state specific one, some of them just don't have the legislative history available online for it to even have access to create that information to even pull from. So like she said, it's going to depend.
Sure. All right. Well, thank you so much to all of our lightning round presenters. And it's 2:45 now, and we will have some brief closing remarks in another Zoom room. And thank you, everybody.